Xbox Developer Direct just passed, and Fable was one of the games I was most excited to see a lot of information about. Obviously, this is a game that's been announced for a few years now, and we haven't really heard a whole lot about it. Just a couple screenshots, a couple of pre-alpha footage here and there. So I was super pumped when the Direct was announced that, hey, Fable's going to be one of the big games that are going to be talked about. The people developing this game is Playground Games, and you might know them from the Forza Horizon series. Obviously, this is a very, very big switch up from the games that they've made before. This is their first RPG, and they've recruited a ton of talent to who are familiar with the genre to help kind of revitalize the Fable franchise since the original team has now been long gone. They have kind of been there to fill the shoes for Xbox to help revitalize this Fable franchise. This is the first Fable game in 15 years, with the last one being in 2011. This game is basically, from what all the developers and people at Xbox are saying, that this is a complete reboot. This isn't a Fable 4. This isn't some sort of continuation. This is them going back to that original era of the Fable universe, the first game, and just kind of rebooting the whole thing. I don't know what they haven't said anything about the characters, the villains, or who you might come across. If there's going to be a lot of callbacks, I would assume so that there would be, because it seems like, based on what we saw in this direct, that they're taking the developers did their research in this game. They went through the trenches, they dug through everything, and it seems like they're trying to really pay homage to those original games and not lose sight of what made those games so great. Now, this game will take place in Albion around the same era, like I said, of the original Fable, but obviously with more updated visuals. The art style does seem to be a little bit more realistic than the original games, which had a little bit more of a fairy tale, cartoonish aspect to it, kind of like big head, big feet, hands, versus now this looks like almost like a Hogwarts Legacy when you first look at it, especially when I was looking at the combat and the magic and the way that they fought. I was like, man, this looks very similar to Hogwarts Legacy, obviously with its own take and its own spin. But speaking of combat, the combat that we did see, the footage was a little choppy. Obviously, you could tell the FPS was kind of struggling along. Hopefully, it gets better and we don't have a game that's super heavy to run. I'm thinking it may not be. I'm hoping. I'm hoping that they're not, because of given Playground Games history of what we've seen from the Forza games. Those Forza games are historically very, very well optimized. Granted, there's a lot less things going on in that game that there would be in this one. So there's a lot more things to render, a lot more things that are going on in the background that this game would have to run. And I'm really curious to see how deep this game goes in terms of combat, because from what we've seen, obviously there's going to be heavy elements of melee as well as magic. The melee on it, honestly, obviously it wasn't like the super smoothest Souls-like type melee combat. But the one thing I did like about it, it was a little slower and it felt very thumpy, at least when watching the footage, that when you hit people, it really did something. And the same thing with the magic. It felt like they did a really good job of making that combat feel super satisfying. We'll see as the game goes on, but this is just kind of my first impressions based off watching it. I'm curious if you guys feel the same about that as well. And I'm curious how deep it goes in terms of the combat, like how much magic can you do, what are the different types of spells or whatever it might be that can help make the gameplay a little bit more deeper in terms of combat, as well as the melee. Like, how many melee weapons? Is it just melee weapons? Are they going to do bows and arrows? Are they going to be guns like we saw in the previous Fable games? Like, obviously, I don't anticipate the gun thing because of the era, but I'm curious to see how deep they go with the combat of this game. Now, one of the big things that they're changing in this game to kind of, I guess, modernize it or take a different twist on it from the original ones is the changing of the morality system. The system's going to be a little bit more subjective and dynamic to your players and your characters' actions that you take. They really want to highlight the point that there is more of a moral gray area versus in the original games. We all know, like, you can be bad or you could be good, and if you were bad, you would develop horns. You would become like very devilish looking. If you were good, everybody would love you. Now it doesn't seem to be as black and white as those original games. The NPCs will respond to those actions entirely based on how your actions affect their life, which, quite honestly, I think is pretty cool. Like, for example, some people or NPC might hate you or they might love you. It could be you buy up all the businesses around them and then you hurt that one local business and then they hate you and everybody hates you around you. Or you buy up all these houses and you're renting them out and then everybody looks at you as some evil corporate landlord. They use this example of a giant that is hidden in one of the towns. that you can either help him or you can kill him, and he will his dead body will just rest outside of town, leaving a smell and an odor that would affect the housing market of the town. So little things like that seem really, really cool and really interesting versus the static of good, bad, the game kind of telling you what your morals are. And some people hate that, some people love it. I've seen a little bit of back and forth in discourse. I just want to say I'm kind of in the ballpark of I like the idea of the how like it is a little black and white. Like you could be an obviously bad character, and I think people will resonate with that. But with every villain, there's some people that like the villain. And I kind of like that too, where 80% of the people might hate you, but there might be 20% that admire you. And that's pretty cool. And it makes every unique and every playthrough that you want to do unique and interesting to you. So like everybody's playthrough is going to be completely different. Mine might be different from yours might be different from mine. And the fact that all these NPCs can have their own thoughts and their own worlds that they live in is really interesting. The dev said that there's about over 1,000 handcrafted NPCs in the world that you can interact with. You can become friends with them, you can start relationships, you can even start a family, buy a house with them. It's really, really cool, and that really adds to that customizability of your specific playthrough, which I think is really cool. There's something that you'll never really be able to replicate that no matter how many times you play it, and I think that is super awesome. Now, as for the world on the map, it seems like they're really making an effort to make the open world feel very not just big, but very dense. And that's the one thing that they really wanted to hone in on because obviously, and this is in a recent interview that they discussed, was, and I believe in the developer direct as well, is that they had to restructure the way they think of open worlds because obviously, them coming from a more racing open world background, the way that you traverse that land is going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot faster. So those worlds are going to be much, much bigger because you're driving in a car that's going 200 miles per hour versus you being on a horse and maybe going 30. And that's you at your fastest. And most likely you're probably going to be walking around. So I think it's really cool that they really wanted to hone in on the idea that these are going to be very densely packed. There's going to be a lot going on. They said that you can open every door for every building in the game, which I think is a pretty ambitious goal because I personally haven't necessarily seen that before. So I'm really curious to see how that really plays out. They've talked about the fact that you can buy and sell almost every house on there. They have the different biomes that you can be in, the different environments that are all going to be, England-esque. Obviously, it's kind of set in that fairy tale kind of universe. But we were really told a lot about the towns, but not really the world outside between the towns, which I'm also curious about. Like, what are those different? Are they going to be like dungeons, for lack of a better word, or caves, or these swampy areas? Which it looks like there is, but how does that interact? Is a lot of it just going to be passed by to you going in that town? It seems like they're making a lot of effort to give you something, and things along the way as your adventure continues. So I'm really curious to see how that works out. But overall, what are your thoughts? What do you guys like what you saw from the developer direct about Fable specifically? Or if you want to talk about the other games as well. I did like, obviously I'm a big Forza guy. Forza Horizon 6 looks awesome. So it's kind of crazy Playground Games is dropping 2 games this year for Xbox. I plan on making some more videos about Forza Horizon 6 as well if you're interested in that. But overall, what are your thoughts on what you saw from Fable? Do you like what you saw? Were there some things that you were a little upset that they left out? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really excited for this game. I'm going to be playing some of the original Fables for the first time through coming up this year on my retro channel, which is called Nostalgic Pixels, which I'll leave down in the comment below. So if you want to see games and retrospectives of older games and things like Fable, me playing it for the first time and getting my thoughts and opinions on it, please be sure to check that out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.